Hello and welcome to Artsworld. My name's Sakina Abdul Noor.
And my name is Munira Rashida.
And we're from the hip-hop act
Poetic Pilgrimage.
In our first film, we meet a group of green-fingered revolutionaries who are transforming London's urban, grimy spaces into flowering gardens.
This radical is preparing for some illegal action. The target, a large roundabout in South London. What he's doing breaks the law. What he's doing is gardening.
This roundabout is mostly lavender, but underplanted with 2 different kinds of red tulip.
Over the last 4 years, a group of green-fingered lawbreakers have transformed this grotty urban roundabout into a rural oasis. But it isn't their land to garden. Their leader is Richard Reynolds, part-time advertising executive, part-time guerrilla gardener.
Guerrilla gardening is the illicit cultivation of someone else's land, but normally that land is public land and it's neglected land. It's almost forgotten about by the local authority or whoever's meant to be looking after it. They're not planting anything.
Frustrated by this horticultural deprivation, he decided to take matters into his own hands.
It is criminal damage, what we do, technically speaking. But I'm glad to say that guerrilla gardeners who face serious trouble are few and far between. In the nearly 5 years that I've been guerrilla gardening, I've only been threatened with arrest once. It's not bad going.
It was in the mid-18th century, under the leadership of Capability Brown, that the idea of the English landscaped garden really took root. Gardens were not just pretty landscapes, gardens were now art. Guerrilla gardeners design and plant previously drab spaces, but is what they do art?
It depends whether you see gardening as an art form. I tend to see it more as a craft. But there are a lot of artists who are actively involved in the guerrilla gardening movement. For them, that statement, that picture, the vision of what they're achieving is all important.
I definitely see guerrilla gardening as art. I see it as a reaction to what's happening today.
It's a good way to make space that would otherwise just be looking bare and barren actually looking nice.
Instead of reacting harshly, you're reacting by beautifying an area. So I see it as art, but I also see it as political.
Sunflowers? Free sunflowers?
Here, Richard is at the recent G20 protests in London, recruiting.
Where do you think you might plant them?
I'm just going to go in Stoke Newington in our outside smoking area.
Okay. Okay, and into public place, perhaps into the...
Oh yeah, I live in Brixton at the moment, there's not enough green around there.
Many in the movement see this as a political art form, a form of resistance against governments who are failing to fulfil their duties to the land.
I suppose you'd like some sunflower seeds, would you? Sunflower seeds? My most audacious guerrilla garden, potentially the most risky, was right opposite the Houses of Parliament. 3 of us went there late at night last spring and planted sunflower seeds. We went back and weeded them a couple of times, but nobody intervened, and by August they were 3 metres high. A yellow, triumphant clump, a beacon opposite the seat of government.
I'm stood in the middle of the sort of powerhouse of how we funded the whole of London.
The lavender at the end of the summer is something we chop back, we dry out.
Then I'm part of the haberdashery division, and we spend at least 1 weekend, 2-3 weekends in October sewing lavender pillows.
Which we then sell.
Online, in local shops, to everyone we know.
And that raises hundreds more pounds for more planting later in the year.
Richard's hobby started small, local, but has mushroomed. Through setting up a website and writing a book on the subject, he found he's one of hundreds of illegal gardeners planting around the world, either as lone operatives or as teams. He has also found love.
I first met Richard the first time I went guerrilla gardening.
2.5 years ago. It was a tulip planting evening.
And I remembered that we didn't stop talking from the minute I got there.
The tulips are actually in flower now, so that feels good.
We were planting tulip bulbs.
I think the phrase is love blossomed, yes.
Meantime, as spring turns to summer in London, This guerrilla gardener has his work cut out.